The truth. She hid was the only way to keep me safe. I used to believe that lies were always cruel. That truth, no matter how painful, was always better. That honesty was the purest form of love. I was wrong. I learned that lesson too late, and it still sits heavy in my chest. The day I found out the truth she had hidden from me, my hands started shaking. Not because I was angry, but because everything I thought I knew about my life suddenly felt fragile. She had let me believe something false for years. She had watched me walk away, hurt and confused. And she never stopped me. At the time, I thought her silence meant she didn't care. I thought she chose herself over me. I thought I had been forgotten. So I left, with questions unanswered and feelings locked inside. I built my life around that lie without even knowing it was one. Every decision I made carried its weight. Every memory felt incomplete. And yet, I never imagined the truth could be worse than the lie, or kinder. I didn't know she was protecting me. I didn't know she was carrying my pain, so I wouldn't have to. I didn't know that love sometimes chooses silence over explanation. The truth came back to me years later, quietly. Not in anger, not in drama, but in a moment so ordinary that it almost passed me by. And when it finally did, it broke my heart in a different way. Because suddenly, I saw her clearly, not as the person who hurt me, but as the one who saved me without asking for credit. This is the story of the lie that shaped my life, the silence I misunderstood, and the truth she hid, not to protect herself, but to keep me safe. Before everything broke, my life felt simple. Not perfect, but steady. I grew up believing I understood my family. I knew who loved loudly, who stayed quiet, who showed care through actions instead of words. And then there was her. She was not someone who spoke much about feelings. She never explained herself unless she had to. She believed love did not need proof. At least, that is what I told myself for years. She raised me in a house that was never very quiet. There were always sounds, plates clinking, a radio playing softly, footsteps moving from room to room. But even in all that noise, there were things we never talked about. She was careful, protective in a way that felt strict sometimes. She asked questions about where I was going, who I was with, when I would be back. I thought it was control. I did not see fear yet. As a child, I trusted her without thinking. She was simply there. She packed my food, waited up late when I was out, listened more than she spoke. But as I grew older, that quiet care started to feel heavy. I wanted answers, freedom, space, and she stayed the same. There were moments when I asked questions about my past, about certain people we never mentioned. Each time she avoided my eyes. Later, she would say, "You're too young. It doesn't matter." Those words stayed with me. They felt like doors closing. I started filling the gaps myself. When you don't get answers, your mind creates its own, and most of the time, they are worse than the truth. I decided she didn't trust me, that she didn't think I could handle reality, that she was hiding things because she didn't respect me. That belief grew slowly, quietly, just like resentment does. As I became more independent, the distance between us grew. Not in anger, in misunderstanding. We still spoke, still lived under the same roof for a while, but something was missing. Honesty, I thought. There was one memory that stayed clear. I was standing in the kitchen, older now, confident enough to demand answers. I asked her directly about something that had bothered me for years. She froze, just for a second. Then she said, "You don't need to know that." Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. I noticed it too late. I walked away that day, feeling small, dismissed. I told myself that if she truly cared, she would explain. She would trust me with the truth. That was when the first crack formed. Time moved forward. I built my own life, my own routines, my own circle. We spoke less, not because of a fight, but because silence had settled between us. I thought she was choosing distance. I didn't know she was watching, worrying, protecting. There were moments when she tried to reach out. Simple things. A message asking if I ate, a call asking if I was tired. I answered politely, briefly. I didn't realize those were her ways of staying close without crossing a line. I thought she was avoiding the real conversation. The truth is, I was waiting for her to break, to finally explain, to admit something. And she never did. That hurt more than I expected. Years passed like that. No big argument, no dramatic goodbye, just distance growing wider with time. I told myself I was fine, that I didn't need answers anymore. But deep down, I carried questions everywhere. Looking back now, I can see the signs. The way she watched me leave the house, the way her voice softened when she thought I wasn't listening, the way she avoided certain names. She was afraid, not of me, of what the truth might do to me, but at the time, all I saw was silence. And silence can feel like rejection. So I built my life believing a lie, not because she told it to me, but because she didn't correct it. That is how the stage was set. Two people loving each other deeply, both trying to protect themselves in different ways. One hiding the truth, the other walking away from it. Neither of us knew what it would cost. The distance between us did not arrive suddenly. It grew quietly, like a shadow stretching longer each day. At first, it was small things, missed calls, short replies, conversations that stayed on the surface. We talked about weather, work, nothing that mattered. And every time we avoided the real subjects, something inside me hardened. I began to notice how careful she was around me. She chose her words slowly. She watched my face when she spoke, as if she was measuring how much I could handle. That made me uncomfortable. It made me feel like a child again, like someone who couldn't be trusted with the truth. One evening I visited her unexpectedly. The house felt the same, warm, familiar. She smiled when she saw me, but there was surprise in her eyes. And relief. She offered tea, food, all the usual things. But something was off. There were papers on the table. She moved them quickly when she noticed me looking. "Just old things," she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. That moment stayed with me. I wanted to ask her about them. I wanted to push, but I didn't. Because every time I had tried before, I had been shut down. So I sat quietly. That silence was my choice too. Later that night, as I was leaving, she touched my arm. "Take care of yourself," she said softly. There was fear in her voice. I pulled away gently. "I'm fine," I said, and I meant, "I don't need you." I started telling myself stories, that she was hiding something bad, that she was ashamed, that she didn't trust me enough. I told myself she had chosen her secrets over me. Those thoughts made it easier to stay distant. Pain feels safer when you can blame someone. There were moments when guilt tried to reach me. She would call late at night, just to hear my voice. I would answer, tired, distracted, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. That moment stayed with me. I wanted to ask her about them. I wanted to push, but I didn't. Because every time I had tried before, I had been shut down, so I sat quietly. That silence was my choice too. Later that night, as I was leaving, she touched my arm. "Take care of yourself," she said softly. There was fear in her voice. I pulled away gently. "I'm fine," I said. And I meant, "I don't need you." I started telling myself stories. That she was hiding something bad, that she was ashamed, that she didn't trust me enough. I told myself she had chosen her secrets over me. Those thoughts made it easier to stay distant. Pain feels safer when you can blame someone. There were moments when guilt tried to reach me. She would call late at night, just to hear my voice. I would answer, tired, distracted. "Yes? I'm busy." She would pause. "Okay," she would say. "I'll let you go." And the line would go dead. I never called back. Over time, the calls became less frequent. I noticed, but I didn't stop it. Part of me was tired of waiting. Then something small happened that changed everything. I met someone from her past, someone who recognized my face instantly. They looked surprised to see me. "You don't know, do you?" they asked carefully. My stomach tightened. "Know what?" I said. They hesitated. "I shouldn't say anything," they said. That sentence alone was enough. For the first time in years, the questions I had buried rose to the surface. What was everyone protecting me from? What truth was so dangerous that it required silence? I felt foolish, angry. I went home that night restless. Sleep didn't come easily. My mind replayed every conversation, every avoided topic, every careful word. I realized something painful. Everyone seemed to know something except me. The next time I saw her, I was not calm. I didn't shout, I didn't accuse, but my voice was sharp. "I deserve answers," I said. She went still, her face drained of color. "I told you," she said softly, "it's not important." That broke something inside me. "You don't get to decide that," I said. The room felt heavy. She looked away. "I'm trying to protect you," she whispered. That sentence confused me more than anything else. "From what?" I asked. She didn't answer. That silence was louder than any truth could have been. I stood up. "If you can't be honest with me," I said, "then maybe I don't belong here." Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. She let me walk away. That was the moment I truly left. Not physically, emotionally. I told myself I was done waiting. Done guessing, done hoping. I built walls where questions used to be. Years passed, life moved forward. I changed jobs, moved houses, built routines. From the outside, everything looked fine, but inside something felt unfinished. I still thought about her, not with warmth, with confusion. I wondered if she missed me, if she felt the distance. Sometimes I hoped she would call and finally explain everything. She never did. What I didn't know was that she was carrying something heavy, something meant for her alone, something she believed would break me if I touched it. And I was walking further away from the truth each day, unaware that one moment, one sentence would soon tear everything open. The truth did not come the way I imagined it would. There was no confrontation, no raised voices, no dramatic confession. It arrived quietly, like everything else in my life with her. I found out by accident. It was an ordinary afternoon, one of those days that feel empty before something changes forever. I had gone back to her house for a practical reason. Paperwork, documents, things that remain after years have passed. The house felt smaller than I remembered, quieter. Her footsteps were slower now, her voice softer, but her eyes, they were the same, always watching, always protecting. She left the room to make tea. And that was when I saw the folder. It was tucked inside a drawer she thought I wouldn't open. Old papers, yellowed edges, my name was written on the top. My heart started beating fast. I told myself not to look. I looked anyway. The first page didn't make sense. Dates, names, places I didn't recognize. Then I read further. And the room began to spin. The truth was not what I had imagined. Not even close. The story I had built in my head for years fell apart with every line I read. She hadn't been hiding something small. She had been hiding something dangerous. I learned that there were people in my past who should never have been near me. Situations that could have changed my life forever. Choices she made alone, in silence, to keep me away from harm. She took the blame so I wouldn't have to. She accepted being misunderstood. She chose distance over danger. All this time, I thought she had chosen secrecy over me. In reality, she chose me over everything else. My hands were shaking when she came back into the room. She saw the papers. She knew immediately. Her face went pale. She didn't rush to explain. She didn't defend herself. She just sat down slowly. "I hoped you'd never find that," she said. I couldn't speak. My chest felt tight. All the anger I had carried for years collapsed into confusion. "Why?" was all I managed to ask. She looked at me with tired eyes. "Because knowing would have hurt you more," she said quietly. I asked her why she let me walk away, why she let me believe she didn't care. Her answer was simple. "Because you were safe," she said. And that mattered more than being close. That sentence broke me. Everything suddenly made sense. Her silence, her fear, her careful words. She wasn't hiding from me. She was shielding me. I cried then. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears falling without control. I realized how unfair I had been, how wrong my assumptions were. She reached for my hand, but stopped halfway. as if she wasn't sure she was allowed anymore. I took her hand myself. "I'm sorry," I said. She shook her head. "No," she whispered. I would do it again. That was the moment I truly understood love, not the kind that explains itself, but the kind that sacrifices being understood. The truth didn't set me free. It humbled me. It showed me how heavy silence can be when it is chosen out of love. I stayed with her that day longer than I had in years. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. For the first time, the space between us felt honest. But healing does not happen in a single moment. Understanding does not erase time. The truth brought relief, yes, but it also brought grief. Grief for the years we lost, for the closeness we never had, for the pain we both carried alone. As I left that evening, she stood at the door like she always had, watching, protecting. I turned back. "I'm here now," I said. She smiled, and that smile carried years of waiting. After that day, nothing returned to the way it was before, but something softer began to grow in its place. At first, we didn't know how to talk to each other anymore. Years of distance don't disappear just because the truth is finally spoken. We spoke carefully, slowly, as if every word mattered now. And it did. I started visiting more often, not with questions, not with anger, just presence. We sat together in silence many times, drinking tea, watching the evening light fade through the window. Those moments felt fragile, but real. I noticed things I had ignored before. How tired she looked. How her hands shook slightly when she held her cup. How her eyes softened when she looked at me. She had grown older while I was gone. That realization hurt more than any truth. One evening, I finally asked something gently. "How long did you carry this alone?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Long enough." There was no bitterness in her voice, only honesty. I wanted to apologize again, for the years, for the distance, for my assumptions. But she stopped me. "You don't owe me anything," she said. I made the choice. That didn't erase my regret, but it showed me her strength. We began sharing small memories, safe ones. She told me stories from my childhood I had forgotten, moments where she watched from a distance, afraid to step in. I listened differently now, without judgment. Sometimes I asked myself if I should have known, if I should have seen the signs sooner. But I stopped following those thoughts. Blame did not help healing. Understanding did. I learned that forgiveness doesn't always come as a grand moment. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in sitting together, in shared meals, in unspoken acceptance. There were still painful days, moments when the weight of lost time pressed down on me. I couldn't give those years back, but I could give her my attention now. I started calling her just to talk, not because something was wrong, but because I wanted to hear her voice. She never mentioned the past. She never asked for more. She simply answered. Slowly, I stopped seeing her silence as a wound. I began seeing it as a shield. One she carried alone so I wouldn't have to. The truth did not fix everything, but it softened the sharp edges. It allowed love to exist without confusion. One afternoon, as I was leaving her house, she said something that stayed with me. "I worried every day that you would hate me if you knew." I turned back. "I hated the silence," I said. "Not you." She nodded. That was enough. Healing did not mean forgetting. It meant choosing to stay, choosing to understand, choosing to love with clearer eyes. I realized then that safety is sometimes invisible, and those who protect us the most often do so quietly, without thanks, without recognition. The truth she hid changed how I saw my past, but it also changed how I chose my future. Now, when I look back on everything, I no longer ask why she stayed silent. I ask how she found the strength to do it, to be misunderstood, to be blamed, to be distant, all for my safety. I used to think love always needed explanation, that care should be proven with words, but she taught me a different kind of love, the kind that protects without asking for thanks, the kind that chooses your peace over its own comfort. There are still moments when I feel the weight of lost time, Moments when I wish I could return to who I was before doubt took over. But I don't stay there anymore, because regret cannot change the past. Only presence can change what remains. I sit with her now more often. We talk about small things: the weather, the food she likes, the memories that feel safe to share. Sometimes we don't talk at all, and that silence feels different now. It feels warm. I have learned that not every truth is meant to be shared immediately. Some truths are too heavy for certain moments. Some love carries weight quietly until the time is right. And sometimes the truth comes only when we are strong enough to hold it. If you are listening to this and someone in your life has been distant, someone who avoids certain topics, someone who protects you in ways you do not understand, try not to rush to judgment. Silence is not always absence. Sometimes it is protection. The truth she hid did not weaken me. It saved me. And when I finally learned it, it taught me something else too. Love does not need to be loud to be real. Final moral: before you assume someone's silence means they don't care, consider that they may be carrying something heavy so you don't have to. Not every hidden truth is betrayal. Some are acts of quiet love meant to keep us safe.